right, maybe we can start again. Welcome to the new attendants. I see we also have 18 people online joining us. We can start again with the first presentation of the second half of the session today. That's going to be presented by Sotiris Papadelis from Hibs. That's on measurement and verification of energy savings. Sotiris is the director of Hibs, and he holds a mechanical engineer degree from the National Technical University of Athens. He has over 10 years of working experience in both consulting and R&D projects. So, Sotiris, the floor is yours.
Yeah, okay. So, just a few words about Hibs. Hibs is in Greece. It develops applications in the interface between energy efficiency and data analytics. The closest to market application, let's say, is the measurement and verification aspect. And also we have an open repository with some ideas that people can actually utilize if they want. So, the starting point for measurement and verification. If you have ever heard the term measurement and verification of energy savings, you have seen this graph. This graph comes from IPMVP, which is the international protocol for measurement and verification. And pretty much it says that you can treat MMV as a prediction task. At some point I have an intervention. The intervention splits the time into the baseline period before the intervention and the reporting period after. If I want to estimate the impact of the intervention, all I have to do is I have to predict the energy consumption had the intervention not taken place, compare it with what I observe. The difference, accounting for any uncertainty, is the impact of the intervention. And this also implies that during the baseline period, I have enough data to develop a predictive model to fit the model there, just predict the counterfactual. Now, another way to see this plot is this simple diagram that pretty much says that the counterfactual, the energy consumption had the intervention not taken place, all it needs is data before the retrofit. And it's fine because we have it. If you can collect data during the baseline period, you have it. But the problem is, and the problem that makes energy efficiency so different than renewable, for instance, energy, because in renewable energy, you can measure the output, and it's always certain. If you have a meter, you measure it, etc. Energy efficiency, we say many times that it can be some type of resource that you can transact on, and you can use it pretty much as energy. But it's not so easy to estimate. And the reason for that is that if you have an event that changes something in the building, and there are two types of events. There are events that actually affect the intervention itself, and this is fine. But there are events that have nothing to do with intervention. They change the energy consumption without having anything to do with the intervention. That means I have to adapt. I have to correct my whole modeling process, let's say, to this new event. And for that, I would need to have a counterfactual that's actually there on the right. So ideally, I would have to have data before the retrofit, but also after that event. And the problem is I don't have that event. I have never observed that data. And if I have never observed my data, I cannot do what I did in the previous step. I cannot say I have a model, I fit it there, and I apply it. And the whole thing that we did in SmartSPIN was to try to address this issue. Okay, anything that we developed in SmartSPIN had nothing to do with improving accuracy itself, because the accuracy part, if you have data and you fit a model, then anything that has to do with accuracy is marginal. I can think of different models that somehow improve accuracy a bit, in most cases, it doesn't worthwhile the effort. The real question, let's say, is how you adapt to events. Now, we're still at the starting point because this is actually an idea that comes before SmartSPIN. Even before we engage with SmartSPIN, we were developing models like this. So what it says here is, what if instead of having one model, this predictive model that you have during the baseline period, we had two. And let's say one estimates something that it is a bit strange. It's a synthetic. It's not a real thing. This is the activity level. As you can imagine, activity as something that tries to explain variations in energy efficiency, in energy consumption, that are not explained by external aspects like weather. And this you never observe, so you have to create it. You have to think a way to generate it. And we have already developed a method to estimate it. And the idea is that you have that model, and then you have another model, this yellow thing, that given the activity and the external features like weather, estimates energy consumption. And why this is useful? This is useful because if someone would tell me that something happened in the building that has nothing to do with how the building behaves under different weather conditions, but it is related to activity levels. For instance, something happened and now you have more or less or fewer people in the building than usually. Then I know that the yellow model is still valid, and only have to change is that blue one, the activity level. So this was this initial idea that correcting, let's say, for events means you decide that some aspects remain the same and some you have to calculate again. It's not a problem to calculate things again, because MMV is counterfactual prediction, which means there is nothing problematic for me to use data during the reporting period. Okay, it's not that I predict something, so I cannot use data that relate to my prediction because I mix predictions with ground truth. There is no ground truth. Okay, so there's no problem using data you have observed after the intervention to say something about before. So what we did in SmartSPIN, we actually decided to create two different models, one to replace the blue one and the other to replace the yellow one. So for the blue one, now this is a bit, okay, very conceptual, but I will explain the idea. The idea is, what if this activity comes as an autoencoder? Okay, what this says is, take, by the way, even here that we didn't use autoencoder, the activity part actually sees energy consumption. It's a strange idea where you use energy consumption as input and also as output. But this is not a problem. And it actually, even if you feel that this would overfit or you will learn noise, it doesn't learn noise at all. And if you go to the EVO portal, EVO is the an efficiency valuation organization. The organization before IPMVP. They have a portal where you can see different models that have been evaluated on data that the model has never seen. They have a nice plot there. And if you search, you will see something that's called insights. And insight uses this approach. And it's evaluated on data that it has never seen. It's actually quite well. So it's not really a problem to use energy consumption to create something that then is used to predict energy consumption. Okay, if you do it smartly. So we developed an architecture, let's say. This is a very conceptual idea of an autoencoder. These things here, the trapezium ones, are neural networks. It doesn't matter the architecture. Okay, anyone can play and find a good architecture. The idea is that you take sequences of energy consumption, sequences of weather. Why you want sequences? Because you want to know how you got there, not just an observation. Then you ask the network to find this activity. This is a value between 0 and 1. Such that if you give it weather data, it can give you back energy consumption. Okay, that's all it says. If you have a naive approach to that, then the network will actually learn that consumption is somewhere there in the inputs and can actually grab it and move it forward. If you are smart, for instance, a nice tip, you can mask inputs. So you can force the network to learn shapes and not just values. And this has been trained in 1,030 buildings from that dataset. That dataset has 900,000 buildings. Most of them are simulated. Simulated buildings, or data from simulated buildings, are nice, but not useful to train, at least to train things that you want to deploy. But 1,030 or 1,090, that dataset, are actually real data, or data from real buildings. And we use that to actually train, and it works quite well, even better than what we had before. So that was one thing that we changed in the SmartSPIN. The other thing is we said, okay, if you remember that diagram, the yellow one, the yellow box, we said this embodies the behavior of the building given weather conditions. So in a way, it is the heating and cooling system, or it's a couple between the heating and cooling system and the building. So if we replace that, or let's replace that with an actual simulation model. Okay, this is what we did in SmartSPIN. We say, drop the general predictive thing, and then create, you can call it mechanistic, first principles, it doesn't matter. It means simulated. And it also means that parameters have physical meaning. So you don't have weights, but you have parameters that for building, for instance, represent U value, geometric characteristics, thermal mass, etc. And it also can represent the HVAC system, like set points, like efficiency. Right now, the only thing that we did in terms of control is a PID control. But it doesn't matter. No, you can actually fit whatever you want there. I don't have a slide for that, but just for to give the whole picture. This was developed in a custom-made thing. It uses a Python library because if you want to simulate something like that, because you have thermal mass and control, it means that you have lags. So you cannot escape the fact that simulation actually means integration. Okay, so you need some way to solve differential equations. And we use a custom library, let's say, based on Python, but we validate it with Modelica and the buildings library. And it's much faster than things like, for instance, Energy Plus, including something like that there. And it's also more flexible than Modelica, because you don't have to compile things. Okay, so what this changes a bit is that now we're not talking about taking a model and fitting into data, but calibrating. Okay, so now I have to find the parameters, the values of the parameters that make my model, given inputs and outputs. Inputs could be outdoor temperature, indoor temperature if I have this information. Outputs are energy consumption, for instance, for different zones, etc. And I want to match that with reality. By minimizing that, I find the values of the parameters. Now, there are many ways to do it. The method that we have used here is based on Bayesian optimization. Okay, why Bayesian optimization and not something else? You can use whatever you want, it doesn't matter. The good thing about Bayesian optimization is that there are many algorithms, but all of them have the same underlying characteristic. They create a distribution of your parameters. They sample from that. They have a criterion to select what is the best candidate, and then they evaluate that. Okay. If you go at the end of this pipeline and you see what the optimization process chosen, you don't have a distribution. Okay, it's just results. But if you go back and actually take from the algorithm the distribution itself, now you have distribution of your parameters. It's actually quite good because it gives you for free, somewhat, distribution of your parameters. So it's like you're doing optimization and MCMC in one step, really. Yeah, this is just one plot that says how a mechanistic model is fit on data from one pilot is the same pilot that was chosen before. Okay, so two things about calibrating that we found out. The first thing is simulation models are incomplete models. What that means is they are nice, but they cannot utilize the whole information. That means you cannot trust them out of the box, the values of the parameters. You have to, it's like you're doing linear regression and you deliberately say, I will not use that feature. Would you trust the parameter values of the other? Probably not. So you need to add something else. You need to add a discrepancy model that you train them together, you do the calibration and the training another model. The other model is meant to explain what your simulation model cannot. So that at the end result, you have something that you can trust the parameters. What is the problem there? Discrepancy models typically are very flexible. Because they are flexible, they cannibalize the whole process. They can explain everything, even if the parameters are dummy. So you need to put constraints. And we developed in the SmartSPIN, through the SmartSPIN project, a way to constrain. It's not mathematically 100% proof supported, but it makes sense empirically. How to constrain that discrepancy model so the outputs actually make sense. Why we do all that? We do all that because typically when we do MMV, we actually switch models together. So the idea is that you fit models before, you fit models after. It doesn't matter to use after the intervention data. You can do it, and then your counterfactual is combinations of your different models. And you can do this for impact estimation. You can do this to adapt to events. It's the same idea. And if you want to have one rule, the rule says if you want to correct for something, use it. If you want to find the impact of something, use it before the event. If you want to adapt to an event, use the part of the model that you have fitted after the event. And we have presented this methodology in a webinar that we did for Ego. And one feedback that we got was, okay, all these are great, but who's going to use it and how? So we said, okay, let's develop an application for that that's easier to actually take all this methodology and make it easy to use. So just 1 minute. Okay, so just one thing about the whole application is that one thing that we found out is that it doesn't make much sense to think about specific events. So nowhere in the application exists something that says baseline or reporting. It's just data and events. And the reason for that is you may have a lot of events, and a retrofit is just an event. If you know how to deal with an event, you know how to deal with a retrofit. It doesn't matter. So it's only data and events. You can simulate things that are complicated to the extent that you can actually read from an IDF file from an NG+, or just have a very simple representation of your data. All data are structured, so every data that you add has a type. Then we have a list of types, and so it can be connected to a different zone because underlying is just one model for the whole building that's being calibrated, etc. And I finished. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I don't know if there are any questions by any of the participants.
Yes, maybe one.
Yes, please. Use the microphone and you can go back and maybe you can summarize the question as well so that we make sure you
Right.
Yeah, can you? Okay, perfect.
Thank you. It's both an easy and a difficult one. I saw that you train the algorithms on a set of freely available data, but that seems to be related to the US building stock.
Yes.
And I was just asking myself whether you had tried to investigate whether such resources are available for, well, EU buildings.
There are.
All right. And
Yeah.
so the reason for your choice?
The data is actually temperature and energy consumption. So it really doesn't matter. If you think that the building stock is representative in the US in terms of characteristics of the building's profiles, consumption profiles, and temperature variations, it doesn't really matter if it is in the US or it is Europe. The reason why this data set was selected is because there are data sets for European countries that are smaller. So then you have to do something that says, let's take this part, let's take this part, let's take this part, let's find a way to put them all together, etc. So if there is already one big data set, it makes your life easier.
All right. All right. Fair enough. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Can I ask one
Yes,
small question? Sorry, Satiris. Just one small question.
How did you know that's from the US?
Well, MLM. I mean,
Huh?
the name.
Okay, from the okay.
And REL is
Okay, yeah. Fair.
So thank you very much for your interesting and detailed talk. My question is regarding the kind of use of the model. So as I understand it, you use it to calculate afterwards what the energy efficiency gains are. But I was wondering, can you use this modeling or these predictions also maybe in real time? Like what is what would be the speed of this modeling and how fast would you use that data?
Okay. First of all, I like that you use the term efficiency gains
Right.
and not energy savings.
Uh-huh.
And the reason for that is I may have a new system that's actually more efficient, but I use it more. Okay. So if you think in terms of savings, you have an energy consumption now that would be the same as before. So what's the difference? Zero. But there are actually gains because the counterfactual will be larger. So thinking in terms of efficiency gains makes much more sense than thinking in terms of energy savings. Okay, and to answer your question, no, it's not real time. It's actually based on data batches. Okay, so the idea is if you, I don't know if people can actually see that. You see this strange thing here that says building office version data. Okay, the version is generated randomly. The idea is that you give it data batches and it lives on data batches. Okay, so you have a data batch and then it expands, and another data batch and it expands, etc. And at some point, you may decide to roll back to a previous data batch. And because rolling back means that everything that you did now becomes irrelevant, it creates a new version. This is why there was a version. So it's a batch-based. Okay, it expects from you to have, for instance, if you're doing the reporting and you have data per month, then okay, you can give it data per month. But it's not real time in the sense that although it says up, it's not cloud-based. Okay. Right now, at least.
Very interesting. I think in view of time, but yeah, thanks.
Okay. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Sotiri. And the next presentation is going to be delivered by Daniel Ring from Loller. You know Daniel, I've introduced in the morning. It's going to be on best practice guidelines for stakeholders. There you go. Or maybe you can use this microphone here, and I will switch this.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, everyone. So look, I'm just going to give an overview, and there's some themes that we spoke about this morning when we looked at the contract template that kind of are also mentioned again in this. So in terms of best practice guidelines, what we thought would be good to do is just look at the different project stages, and we've probably given a bit more emphasis to the viability stage. So that's the initial stage when we look at, okay, the SmartSPIN concept, how will it work, or will it work? And I suppose give some guidance to, and when we say stakeholders, we're talking about the ESCO contractor, the tenant, and the landlord principally. But obviously there's interconnectivity then with kind of funders, their legal advisors as we step through that. So so the customer profile and the landlord interaction is important. The site selection and its profiling, very important. And then there's financial considerations, all kind of that sit around the initial viability. And then you kind of move to project proposal stage. So at that stage, you kind of know, look, we have something here that has viability. What are the advices we should be giving at that stage? Then you have the implementation stage. So putting the actual interventions in place. You know, in many cases in a live building, a live environment, and then you have the service phase. So it's the model is based on an energy performance contract. So that traditionally would have implementation and then a service life where the ESCO is retrieving his original investment funded through energy savings. So in terms of the profile and you know for you know important considerations around that landscape would be like who's championing the ESCO model and is there precedent for its use? And I say that you might say, look, that's very maybe very a prerequisite or something very obvious, but in many parts of Europe that model is at an early enough stage. So you need to, I suppose, be sure that it exists because it will affect market players and, I suppose, overall success. Also, how good is the landlord-tenant relationship and have they got any existing collaborative forms? Because what you're introducing is going to require a good deal of collaboration. So if there's a forum that is already there that you can kind of sit in on, or attached to this, that will help, because as we know, energy efficiency is kind of an ongoing process, and many of these contracts could be, you know, 5 years to 15 years. You'll want to capture technology changes and initiatives in that time frame also. So is there currently a sinking fund? So when I say sinking fund, so many buildings in the landlord-tenant relationship, the tenant is contributing to a sinking fund, which is for maintenance and repair. So if that exists, that's good, because you have a mechanism now that you can maybe build off in terms of an ESCO model. But something as simple as is a sinking fund in credit or not could be quite important. How strong is ESG agenda amongst landlord and tenants? So we find that if you have tenancies or a landlord where they're quite exercised and quite mobilised, and that's kind of more and more the case now, that will certainly help. Will the tenants consent to sharing of energy data? So that's a really important one. So if there's a blocker there, that becomes an issue. And I mentioned on our pilot site we had, you know, kind of one tenant out of three, decided against. What level of operational disruption will a tenant accept? So many of these are trading businesses, and if we're going in doing upgrades, are they going to decant or leave? And that has its own disruption and cost implications, or are they going to stay there and we try and work around them? So certainly, say shopping centres, retail environments, they definitely do not want to close their doors to the public. Are there property agents or management companies that are representing the building owner or tenants? So, you know, there's a complexity there that needs to be understood and navigated. So things may take longer if we're not talking directly to building owner or tenant and we're talking through a third party. So site selection, you know, what type of building is being considered? So ideally we want high energy use and long run hours, so it's obvious. So that if we're going to say we're going to save 10% or 20%, that it amounts to something significant in terms of a contribution to larger scale investments. What level of interdependency is there between the landlord and tenant power and heat systems? So that's kind of an interesting enough one. So in offices, you could have a situation where a tenant might have his own air conditioning system, but the landlord is providing radiators as background heat and fresh air supply to the space as well. And often there's a good opportunity there in terms of aligning those systems. So many times they're not talking to each other, so we found that you can get a good efficiency there. But also, if they're all insular, then the cooperation and the interest isn't as great, so it can help to connect them. SmartSPIN model is premised on initially targeting low cost and no cost. So do these exist on site? So you might have to modify the concept, because if somebody has been there ahead of you and replaced all the LED lights, or somebody's upgraded the controls, then you're on to the more significant investments and you're straight into large capital spend. So that needs to be considered. And also then just to do a high level sense check on it as a model. So if people are going to install heat pumps, our experience has been they tend to be very expensive and will need some kind of a subvention. So you won't have a situation where energy savings alone would be able to fund it. You'd need to, I suppose, develop a slightly different hybrid model. If there are multiple FM contractors, how will that be dealt with? Because an ESCO is likely to displace those. And then are there any other site contracts in place that need to be considered? So that's kind of the bit on. So financial considerations, like what's the strength of building owner, as this will be a factor in overall project financing. So if I'm financing energy upgrades, I need to know that the person who owns the building has the financial stability. And I do think that is something that is going to require new financial instruments and insurances, because we'll exclude a lot of the market if we're very conservative around that. Will the building owner consider incurring debt or entering into a building upgrade financing loan? So it's a straightforward question, but if our model requires him to do that and he can't, then that's a blocker. What's the financial strength of the building owner, as it will be a factor in overall project financing? So that's a repeat of one, apologies. Will the owner indemnify the tenant financial risk? So this is an interesting one in terms of shopping centres and offices. So if we lose the tenant's contribution in terms of savings because they vacate that part of the building, we then need the building owner to step in and indemnify that part of the repayments as part of this model. The tenant's business profile, people will look at that in terms of financing, so how stable it is. In the retail environment, there's a lot of challenge between online and physical stores. So that becomes, I suppose, something that a lender will look at. Will the ESCO's finance partner consider landlord only or both landlord tenant? So will they consider that part of the contribution is to come from the tenant, or will they just want the building owner as a gateway? And then, I suppose, from the ESCO's point of view, what's the likely cost of preparing a bid? Because these type of proposals can be quite expensive. So then when we get to project proposal stage, the technical files, so the record drawings of existing systems and their associated specification, maintenance reports and an asset register. So for a building owner, if you're going to go down this route, it's important that that's all well detailed. Your energy consumption, so we can form a baseline, is also very important. There's obviously a detailed site assessment that needs to be undertaken by bidders. So there's a commitment to that. There's disruption around that, so people need to be prepared for that and the management of it. Also, as part of that exercise, capturing legacy issues on site. So in many cases, you could have systems that have leaks or have deteriorated unknowingly, which have material impact on energy efficiency. And that if that's not captured in the original assessment, that can be a problem. Things like maintenance of lights. So we might assume that we'll achieve certain savings, but if half the lights weren't working in the first place, we won't. We've also had situations where we fix things that didn't run and that consumes power. So all of that adjustment of baseline is really important. At this stage as well, then the site restrictions. So to get agreement between the stakeholders in terms of what level of disruption can be tolerated and how that will be navigated and how that might be explained to tenants. Do they need to be polled on that? And then, when that energy use and assess the technology upgrade. So that, I suppose, is to put down the palette of what we see is the opportunities at proposal stage. So then the design and implementation, so scope definition is really important, that we get, there's clear user requirements and a scope document. So often as you, I suppose, investigate buildings, an owner might like to add in additional things, improvements, and so to capture that so that there's clarity around that and to separate, I suppose, energy related from non-energy related, so that you can kind of have that split between what is just a capital investment and what's an energy investment. It's important to design, completion and procurement is undertaken and completed as soon after scope has been agreed. That's just, I suppose, from a cost point of view. If there's a long pause, it will introduce, I suppose, escalation of cost, and then clear procedures for communication between the building owner and the tenants. So to lay all that out clearly, careful validation of avoided energy, renewable power and demand side revenues. So that's again part of the assessment, and I suppose an independent EPC facilitator. So he is probably point number one. So on the client side, to have somebody who will act in that role, because it's a process that mightn't be that familiar to the actual building owner. So then you get into the service phase. We've built out the project. What are the advices then? So the M&V process becomes very important, and having internal competency to generate accurate report structures and allow easy auditing by third-party facilitator. Carry out early technical and metering checks to ensure that calculated energy savings and revenue are being delivered. Seek to establish landlord and tenant reporting forums where there's clear understanding of individual and collective benefits, and also an understanding of how behavioural impacts can significantly impact the contract success. So that's really just, I suppose, having, we would do it like a quarterly forum, but in the initial stages of a contract that would be a monthly, just to get things going. The ESCO could work with, so the idea of working with the existing FM incumbent rather than displacing them can be an easier way, or else take, the ESCO could take on the FM company's role and also and displace them from the building. So that, I suppose, are just some of the considerations in terms of the journey. The initial part of it, I suppose, is the viability is quite important. So I don't know if there's any questions on that?
Yes. Yes. Thanks a lot for this interesting presentation. Just one point you mentioned, drew my attention, is this EPC facilitator / independent advice.
Yes.
I mean, is it something that is in any way possible already in place, or is this something that you are?
Yeah, so actually, good that you could raise that. So I know in Ireland, it is a facility that is in place. So our energy agency, you can apply to them and they will actually fund, so they will bear the cost of an EPC facilitator. So we always encourage clients to do that, to take that up. So that just helps in terms of the impartiality and having a voice and a knowledgeable voice. So there's a lot of training of EPC facilitators happening in Ireland. I'm not sure about other member states, to prepare, I guess, for more EPC contracts and just more knowledge and more awareness around it.
All right, so, but it's just about getting grants in order to bootstrap the process, or it's also guidance?
No, it's very much guidance, and so during I guess the structuring of the project, it's really important. But then beyond that, in the service life, we send all of our measurement and verification to a facilitator, and he is basically the gatekeeper before any payment is made. So that's the way it's configured in the contracts that we're involved in.
All right, super interesting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I find your guidelines very practical and very to the point, in fact, Daniel, which is very useful, I think, for not only tripartite models, but in general, any energy efficiency model. So many of them are applicable to whatever model you use for energy efficiency investments, which is extremely useful. When is the report planned to be ready?
Oh, this report. So we are submitting in the next weeks this report. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll make sure to disseminate it properly.
Great. Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
One more question? Yes.
Yes.
I'll bring it to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation. So there are a lot of questions for different topics that you have shown. It's very interesting, but there are some questions, for example, which are kind of showstoppers. So it means
Yes.
it's not worthwhile to go further.
Yeah.
Do you represent that in kind of process in the guidelines?
Yeah. So I think the guidelines, and I think as well, some of what are presented now as showstoppers will change as the market evolves. So something like financing partners, it's a difficulty at the moment. I think some markets are more mature, but if you can't obviously finance a project, you can't do the project. So that becomes a blocker. So there are ones that are fixed and will not move, and there are ones that hopefully, with the passage of time and the evolution of the market, will move, and then
Thank you, and I think that was the last question for this session. The next session, I find it very interesting because it has a hybrid setup. It's going to be both a physical presentation and an online presentation, actually a recorded video. And it will be delivered by Wouter Rijk and Katerina Papapostoulou. The title is Value Chain and Stakeholders Analysis, and Katerina will present the clustering activities. We're working with other projects on what we call the smart energy cluster. Wouter is a consultant and a good colleague of mine from Egan, with a background in innovation management and industrial engineering, and is specialized in supporting clients in accelerating their sustainable projects. Katerina, which will be an embedded presentation within Wouter's presentation, is an electrical and computer engineer at the National Technical University of Athens. She is currently a research associate and project manager in the Management and Decision Support Systems Lab of School of Electrical and Computer Engineering at the university. So the floor is yours, Wouter.
Thank you.
And you use that microphone.
Yes. Okay, so this works. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Wouter Rijk, and I'm here today on behalf of Egan, presenting the value chain and stakeholder analysis. So Egan, in short, we are part of the P&O Group, which is the largest innovation funding consultancy in Europe. And as Egan, we focus on environment, sustainable energy, and sustainable mobility projects. We have dedicated offices in 10 countries throughout Europe, and can support you with various services. So we can help you to create with your ideation, create your R&D portfolio, and help you with your project engineering. Also, we can help you with linking with different parties, building your consortium, assessing the impact of your potential innovation, but also in developing a grant strategy and applying for grants, writing the grants. And then in the realization phase, we can help you with the product implementation, with project management, with being compliant with the regulation and the requirements of the grant scheme, but also with the exploitation of results and the communication and dissemination of them. And this is what we also do in this SmartSPIN project. We are responsible for the dissemination and the communication of the results, the exploitation of the results, and also for the engagement with other stakeholders. And for this, we have performed the value chain and stakeholder analysis. So we have our own approach for this value chain and stakeholder analysis. We have done this to identify the stakeholders in the field that are of relevance for the SmartSPIN project, and to have a specific targeted strategy for communicating our results, disseminating our results, and exploiting them to maximize the impact of the project of SmartSPIN. So this is the approach that we have used. It's a three-phase approach, which are all complementary to each other. But first we started with the boundaries and the value chain. We started with defining the boundaries and the value chain to see what the landscape actually looked like, and to define the stakeholders in this value chain. We also with the idea to not narrow it down too much, to see that we don't overlook any stakeholders that could be of relevance for our project. So we have identified them in three levels of relevance. For the first ones, they are highlighted in orange. Those are the stakeholders that are directly impacted by the SmartSPIN project, which are the landlord, the property management tenant, and the ESCO. And then the second...
May I ask you to stay a little bit closer to the microphone?
Oh, sorry. Yes, of course. I will do that. And then we have the second level of relevance, which could potentially be directly impacted by the SmartSPIN business model. They are highlighted in yellow. And the third level of relevance, they could be indirectly impacted by the SmartSPIN business model. And then actually we have the fourth level of relevance, which is the public, who is not directly impacted by the business model, but who could be interested in the results of the project. So more details can be found on the SmartSPIN website. I will not dive into much details in the various stakeholders here. I will get to the EU project analysis. There's a lot of research in Europe that's of interest for SmartSPIN. Over 100,000 organizations have been funded by the European Commission via various grant schemes. And there are a lot of potential innovators that could be relevant stakeholders for the dissemination of our results and for the exploitation of our results. So what we did in the first phase, we tried to identify those and perform an analysis on which are most relevant for our project. So we did this using our proprietary tool developed by the P&O group, which is called WSB. It extracts information from various databases and it provides it in a structured overview in which you can see the information on various grant schemes like Horizon 2020 or Horizon Europe. What we have done is we have developed a set of keywords, which you can see in the upper right corner, and we use that in various combinations to come up with a long list of projects, which we then used to qualitatively analyze them. We have come up with 245 projects which could be of relevance for the SmartSPIN project, and we have performed a qualitative analysis and divided them into three levels of relevance. So relevance 1 is the one that are directly related to the SmartSPIN project and are most relevant for our project and our communication and dissemination efforts. Then the relevance 2, they are partially related or indirectly related to the SmartSPIN project. And then relevance 3, it's unrelated or not related enough to the SmartSPIN project. And in this analysis, we have mainly focused on the relevant 1 and relevance 2 levels. We have assessed it in multiple rounds with various colleagues to ensure that we don't overlook stakeholders or That we don't overlook the stakeholders and miss certain relevant stakeholders. And the focus was on the 1 and 2. Here you can see it's a lot to see in one picture, but here you can see the 25 most important stakeholders or most relevant stakeholders for the SmartSPIN project. And some data is also provided in them, and on this we can perform our analysis. What we can see is that the stakeholders and the projects, they vary over time, and this is nicely displayed here. The cluster of important projects, it changes over time. We had in the beginning of the project, we had a first iteration of the value chain and stakeholder analysis, in which we identified 17 projects, and we tried to connect with them, invited them to a clustering event, participated with them in bilateral meetings to engage with them, share knowledge, break the boundaries between various projects, and as a result of that, with various projects in this list, the smart energy cluster has been developed with over 25 projects at the moment who are in this cluster. And Katerina, who's unfortunately not here today, will tell you some more about this cluster in this video, which is hopefully playing right now.
Hello everyone, my name is Katerina Papapostolou. I'm a Senior Research Associate at Decision Support Systems Laboratory at the School of Electrical and Computer Engineering of National Technical University of Athens, and I'm here to talk about the Smart Energy Cluster and explore together how it is fueling the smart energy transition across Europe. I would like to express my gratitude to the
Sorry, that was not supposed.
The SmartSPIN project for their collaboration and the kind invitation to their workshop. The Smart Energy Cluster is an initiative that was established within the framework of the NXS project, which deploys integrated energy services across various sectors and careers and works on the tokenization of energy-saving data on a public blockchain. The cluster is managed by ICP and NTUA, and it currently consists of 25 projects funded by the EU through LIFE and Horizon 2020 programs. Our collaborative effort aims to merge different energy services, incorporate non-energy benefits, and overcome market fragmentation. The main purpose of the Smart Energy Cluster is to establish synergies among projects that share common topics and key performance indicators, weighing to exchange knowledge, particularly in the areas of dissemination, communication, and stakeholder engagement. By leveraging our collective experience and expertise, we can more effectively promote our projects and achieve greater impact. Our goal is to define a common strategy that involves cross-promotion, joint events, and collaborative activities. This unified approach allows us to engage target groups more effectively and amplify our message about the importance of energy transition. Our cluster currently has 25 ongoing projects and 12 completed, covering a wide range of topics within the energy sector. Several of these cluster projects originated through SmartSPIN's earlier clustering activities, establishing a foundation for continued collaboration and growth. By grouping projects with similar fields of activities, we can foster bilateral synergies not only in technical aspects but also in organizing events and developing content and materials. We identified 21 topics to categorize our projects, which helps us understand their focus areas and find common ground. Projects are requested to fill out an application form detailing their activities, allowing us to filter and identify commonalities. At the core of the cluster is energy efficiency, which serves as a focal point. Around this core, we have various other projects and topics, each varying in importance. By grouping our projects in this way, we can foster more targeted collaborations and tackle specific challenges in the energy sector. Our cluster features pilot projects across numerous countries, with most pilots concentrated in Greece, Italy, and Spain. In total, we have pilots in 30 different countries, each bringing unique expertise and perspectives to the cluster. This geographic diversity is one of our strengths, allowing us to test and implement solutions in a variety of contexts and environments and collaborate in national level as well. To spread the word about our activities and the importance of the energy transition, we have an active presence on social media. We use hashtags like Smart Energy Cluster and Meet Our Smart Energy Cluster to create awareness and foster engagement. Our campaigns are designed to highlight the collaborative nature of our cluster and to introduce our member projects to a broader audience. Here are some examples of how we use social media to promote our activities. For instance, on X, we introduce cluster members and showcase their contribution to energy efficiency. These posts are not just about sharing information, they are about engaging with our audience and highlighting the diverse expertise within the cluster. So far, 37 projects have been part of the cluster. We have organized 2 collaboration workshops to foster dialogue and cooperation among our members, and on social media, our hashtag has been used 200 times, helping us reach a wider audience. Now I'd like to introduce our website, developed and maintained by the Decision Support Systems Laboratory at NTUA. Launched in June 2024, it was quickly gained recognition within EU projects as the primary platform for the Smart Energy Cluster. On the homepage, visitors can access key information about our ongoing projects, discover the cluster's objective, and explore a slideshow highlighting our initiatives. On our cluster page, we display all project logos, including both ongoing and past projects, with direct links to their respective websites, so visitors can explore each project in a more detail and understand their individual contributions to our collective goal. Our news and events page offers an overview of activities from the projects within our clusters. Users can filter this information by project, type of activity and topic, for instance, energy efficiency, blockchain, deep renovation, etc. And this feature allows stakeholders to find relevant information quickly, stay informed about the latest developments, and participate in events that align with their interests. On the service page, visitors can find detailed information about ongoing projects, including their social media links, websites, and contact informations. This makes it easier for members to collaborate and for external parties to connect with our projects. We also have a dissemination request field allowing projects to disseminate their activities through our website and social media channel. This shared platform amplifies the reach of each project and strengthens our collective impact. If you're interested in becoming a part of our cluster, the Join the Cluster page provides all the details on the benefits and steps to join the Smart Energy Cluster. The process is simple. Any project can complete a quick form to apply. Projects that align with our key topics are accepted into the cluster, and once accepted, an email with instructions on how to access our resources is sent out. This approach allows us to continually expand and encourage new collaborations. The cluster is expanding at a rapid pace, with new projects continually joining our network, and to foster collaboration and share insights, we're exploring regularly the events organization that bring together experts, stakeholders, and innovators from the smart energy sector. Our next major event will take place at ENLIT 2024, one of Europe's premier energy exhibitions and conferences. On October 24th, from 9:30 to 1:30 CET, 7 projects from our cluster will come together to showcase their work, share knowledge, and collaborate on initiatives aimed at advancing the smart energy transition. This event promises to cover a broad range of topics that cater to the interests and needs of a diverse group of stakeholders, including industry leaders, policymakers, researchers, and innovators in the energy sector. Thank you for your time and attention. We hope this presentation has given you a clear understanding of the smart energy cluster and its role in driving the energy transition. For more information, please follow our hashtag #SmartEnergyCluster on both LinkedIn and X. Visit our website at smartenergycluster.eu or feel free to reach out to us directly at contact@smartenergycluster.eu.
So this was the presentation about the SmartSPIN, about the smart energy cluster, and I will now continue a little bit more with the value chain and stakeholder analysis that we have performed, and provide you with some of the examples of the results that we have in this analysis. So what we can see is who is participating in relevant projects for the SmartSPIN topic of interest. We can also see which parties are participating, how many times they are participating in relevant projects. And here, for instance, you can see an overview of the parties that have participated in more than 4 of the identified projects with relevance 1 or 2. So you can see which are very relevant actors in the field. For instance, the IECP, they participated in 9 projects out of the 58, if I'm not mistaken, projects that we have identified to be of relevance 1 or 2. Followed by Fraunhofer, for instance, with 8 participations, and Tecnalia with 7 participations, who is also joining our SmartSPIN project. This is on the number of participations, but we have also information on the geographical. I see that it's supposed to be a picture here with the geographical spread of projects across Europe. What we have seen is that there are, in the list of projects that we have created that are relevant, there are like 745 unique participants, and they are spread across Europe with their companies. And what we saw is that Spain had the most participations in relevant projects for us, with 127, followed by Greece and Italy. So that can provide the valuable insights for the project and the communication and dissemination strategy that we use. So besides the EU-funded projects, there are also innovators in the field that not necessarily per se participate in the funded projects. So what can be done is perform a patent analysis to identify these innovators in the field. At P&O, we have the WSB tool, which we can also use to identify the innovators using a patent search. For the SmartSPIN project in particular, this was only a marginal benefit, because we are dealing here with a business model innovation. And this is not something which is patented in general. So there's not much information I can tell you for this specific project, but for other projects, a patent analysis can be very valuable. Then the third stage in our value chain and stakeholder analysis is about the business drivers. It's on stakeholders that are relevant to the project, not per se because they are innovating themselves, but because they could be the targeted stakeholders, for instance, the tenants and the landlords here. So what we have done is we have performed a desk research, and also based on the knowledge of our partners in the consortium and our own knowledge, we have identified the associations and the working groups which are relevant for the SmartSPIN projects. They can act as an amplifier of impact because they contain a wide group of stakeholders which you can target then at the same time, and then thereby maximizing your impact of your communication, dissemination, and exploitation of results. So we have came up with a non-exhaustive list of some association and working groups that are relevant for the SmartSPIN projects, which are then also being used in our communication and dissemination activities. What you can also see is that we performed a survey to get insights in the business drivers of these stakeholders. We have performed a survey, and in the first iteration has been conducted in the beginning of the project. And what these surveys do, they They provide insights in the actual stakeholder interest, in the attitude and in the knowledge of the stakeholders in the SmartSPIN business model, and it can help to identify some barriers or business drivers for the innovation, and that information can then be used to further improve the business model or the value proposition and the innovation of itself. And besides that, it also provides some opportunity for future engagement with these stakeholders that decide to fill in the survey. So as I said, we had a first iteration we had in the beginning of the project. It provided some valuable insights, which then was used to improve the project. The second survey will be finalized in the next few months, and it's open still. Here you have the QR code for filling in the survey. At the end of this workshop, I would kindly invite you to take this survey. But for now, we will continue with the presentation. So the stakeholder analysis report. So all of the data that we have gathered will result in a set of stakeholders which we can use as a specific target for our activity, for our communication, dissemination, and exploitation results, and also for future engagement to improve the project and share knowledge. We all have grouped this knowledge into a convenient report, which is the stakeholder analysis report, of which I've shown you some of the results. The first iteration has been posted on the SmartSPIN website and is available there. The second one will be finalized in the next few months of the project and will also be made available. So, yeah, thank you. I have again this SmartSPIN survey QR code, but we will put it on the screen at the end again.
I think we will ask the participants to take the survey at the end of this session. Thank you very much, Wouter. I don't know if there are any questions or remarks by any of the participants. If not, then we move to the last session of today's session, which is, I find it also the most engaging one, because it's meant to be engaging. It's going to be on EU funding opportunities for new collaborative projects, and my colleague Jasper van den Berg is going to present this. Jasper is innovation consultant at P&O Innovation Belgium, focusing on EU Horizon funding in energy and sustainability. He holds a PhD of applied physics from the University of Groningen back in 2016 in the field of graphene nanoelectronics and spintronics. There is a spin in there, I see, which is good. And has worked as a science and physics teacher in London, among many other activities. So thank you for being with us, Jasper, and the floor is yours for this final session. And yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Thomas. I hope everyone can hear me well. I will be giving this more interactive session for everyone. So again, my name is Jasper van den Berg for P&O Innovation Belgium. And we are going to be talking about future funding opportunities for potential collaborative projects. So there will be... I am just looking at this. This seems to be an other version here. Let me check that briefly. Right. So actually, my apologies. We switched to a different platform. And this still has the old one in there. So just have a look. If I can briefly switch that quickly. Bear with me for a moment.
Yes, that's right, Jasper. Let's. Do you have the slides, the final slides? We can transfer them to the.
I just follow the link that you sent and you change it there. Maybe we can just update it here. That should be there. Yeah. Yeah, this is a good one. All right. Now this is a preview. Okay, so sorry about that, but we're back. Right, so this is going to be an interactive session, and we're going to use Slido for that. So I already put the join details on the slide here. I will go back to it when we get to the interactive session. There will be first a brief introduction. I'll keep it very brief in view of the time. And I'll talk a bit about different funding schemes that might be of interest to us. And then the actual interactive part comes. And there we have the goal really to maybe initiate, like spark some interest and initiate a debate or some ideas that you might have yourself and you would like to share. And I would like to kind of warm us up for the idea that, yeah, after this, we have this beautiful results that were shown today. What could be a next step? So how can we identify maybe future opportunities that we can kind of keep continuing on these results and maybe even take them a step further in new core topics that are relevant for the EU funding opportunities. And how are we going to do that? Like, what are the first steps to take? That's really what we want to get at today. And what would be really great, obviously, is that this starts something that can then be maybe furthered into a project proposal. And I will briefly mention future topics as well that are not yet, those calls are not yet published. So, yeah, I think I'll skip the intro to P&O. To P&O. We are also part of the P&O group, a separate entity, P&O Innovation in Belgium. Just what I would like to say here is that there is this large network that Wouter already talked about that we can readily use. So if we today identify new ideas and maybe some partners, we can easily expand that, and we would love to kind of stay in touch after this as well with you, if you are interested. So you can either use this opportunity here at Sustainable Places to find key partners, but also we can follow up on this as well and see if we can further that. So the funding opportunities that might be relevant. So we have here, well, the main one which we'll focus on today is Horizon Europe program. So it's a funding instrument that you all know from the EU, targeting research and innovation. Maybe just for a repeat for those those of you who might want to refresh on that. There's so it's driven by really what the EU finds important and those policies that address global challenges through three different types of actions. We have the RIA, Research and Innovation Action, which is always 100% funded. We have an innovation action, which usually goes a little bit beyond, so it's a more established kind of technologies or solutions that have been found and that require a demonstration on a slightly larger scale. And those are still 100 or 70% funded depending on what type of entity you are, plus another 25% indirect costs. Always good to mention that. And then there's coordination and support action, which I won't go into today. We'll be focusing on two specific calls. I'll show them the topics later on. Those are both innovation actions, and of course we'll talk a bit about future topics. Other calls that might be relevant, or sorry, other funding instruments that might be relevant for us are on the next slide. I won't go into detail on those, but they're still very relevant. So, for instance, we all know about the life, the life instrument. So, for environmental, nature conservation, and climate actions, those deadlines have just passed, I think, last week. So new deadlines will be next year, and the calls will be only expected to be available from April 2025. So it's something to keep an eye on. We keep an eye on it always, and something to keep in mind. We've also this partnership within Horizon called DUT, Driving Urban Transitions, and that partnership is ongoing. Actually, if some of you are in it right now, if new proposal, then you are kind of on the right track. But because we are during today's workshop going to really look at the initial stages, this stage one pre-proposal, because it's a two-stage process, is already due 14th November, which is might be a bit too soon for the really like initial brainstorm on ideas. And then I want to go into Innovation Fund details. I will just continue now. So we're going to show a few slides. In these slides, the idea is that we get a little bit active. So we're going to be active through interaction with Slido. I'm going to explain briefly the topic, core topic, and then I would like you to already think, like, what is the expertise that your own organization could bring? What are some key partners that you could think of that you might find a synergy with in light of that certain topic? And kind of what roles would these partners take? So it's really to find your own strengths with relation to the subtopics and maybe some gaps that you might want other partners for. So in a moment I'm going to go through the first poll. I'm now going to give everyone, and I would like everyone to really participate, to make it active, about 30 seconds to join, slido.com, fill in the code. If you are maybe online or you manage to scan that, please go ahead, and you can, I would really recommend to then already, when I start the first slide, to write down your name, organization, and email address. It will all show there when we are there. So don't answer anonymously. You are allowed, of course, but if we follow up, then it would be great that we can also contact you. So 30 seconds are over. So I will keep those in there as well.
Does anyone need more time to?
They will be on the slides. They will be on the slides, so we can find them. Okay. You can still join later as well. So this is the first call. So this is EA deadline is the 4th of February 2025. Budget is 5 million euros. And the call topic is called Digital Solutions to Foster Participative Design, Planning and Management of Buildings, Neighborhoods and Urban Districts as part of the Build for People partnership. So normally what we do, we go really in detail, because the important thing is when you build a consortium, you need to really have the best concept and the best partnership to deliver that concept. So we need to carefully read every part of those call topics. These are just some snapshots of that. It's to get the conversation going, but when you work it out further, you really go into detail. Scope here is to facilitate participative design and planning. So this is something that really matches this the energy efficiency challenge that was mentioned already earlier today, because it involves
the actual end users at a very early stage when we are designing still. And it tries to also work in solutions that match some of the tools that have been described today, and some of the solutions that were developed by SmartSPIN. So we want to analyze and model different scenarios for future renovations, and then the outcome should be engagement of the end users and citizens, acceptability and uptake, very important. So we talked about lots of barriers that are there. So how can we make sure that that acceptability and uptake is large? Reduced energy and mobility poverty, which means that we might want to translate from where we are now in maybe high-end commercial applications to other applications where if we talk about energy poverty, we would have maybe social housing or somewhere in between. Could be different, but it's something to keep in mind. And then, of course, climate adaptation and resilience. Right, we're going to start. So this is the first question. I'm going to start that right here. So you should now be able to see this first question. It's a multiple choice, so we can get it started quite rapidly. Which urban context mentioned the core topics best fit your organization? So really, it talks about buildings, neighborhoods, and urban districts. Can we scale up to? And I already heard about solutions that compare different buildings today. So it might be that your solution is very relevant for maybe like larger scale projects. When you are answering, you can see if you're answering anonymously or not. I see many on our phones, so very good to see that, or on laptops. You can change your anonymous answer right now if you want to.
Yeah, at the bottom below the send button, there's
you can see
voting as anonymous or voting as your name. It's useful if your name is indicated there, so we can capture your details and come back to you after.
All right, we got some initial results already. I think that you see it on your phone. Do we see the results on our phone as well? Good. So, yeah, okay, many interests here in buildings. Some of it I'm not sure, but okay, so yeah, to be expected that we start out with the buildings, but interestingly enough, some people see maybe a possibility to kind of upskill their solutions. You can pick multiple in this case, by the way. Upskill certain solutions to maybe larger scale. Right. Okay, I'm going to close the poll, move to the next one. What could be promising digital solutions? Let me start here. To analyze, model different scenarios for renovating buildings, neighborhoods, and districts. So this is open-ended. Let's see if we can think of the way you approach this one is in general. What is the first thing that you think of? Typical way to model it. What type of modeling can we think of that might benefit? We have heard some detailed models as well, but maybe this is also related to the various scenarios. So think about it. Take some time to maybe write some keywords or maybe something that you think might be very relevant for this topic. And we can start our conversation on this. You can all see it, I think. I see some people typing, so we'll wait a little bit for that. I'm guessing that some of the tools, the modeling tools described today might be very useful as well. And yeah, for renovating, really in a renovation of maybe a larger scale district, how can we use that modeling to kind of make good predictions on the effect of such renovation works. Right, we have some answers coming in. Simulation models. Oh, it's still jumping here. Developed in MATLAB, Simulink, Energy Plus models. We have data-driven services to capture user attention. So the gamification is mentioned here. So I'm really interested. Is the gamification mentioned by anyone here in the audience? Oh, right. It's.
I think it's useful that they can, users can compare their performance against other users in the same building or neighborhood or whatever it is. It gives good insights.
Right. So the comparison of users was just mentioned, well, what would be good to think is like, how can we compare those users in the context of then the renovation? So this is probably when we keep in mind that users after a renovation works will start using that building. So might there be a solution that you already take into account when you plan your renovation works, has an effect then later on how it will be used, and how can you use a gamification app to then link to that renovation. So perhaps some new energy efficient measure has been done, and then how do we make sure that the users using a gamification app are going to use that new renovation works efficiently. Right, we're going to continue. And we're going to look at these results later on as well, so we can follow them up. Let's go to the next one here. So which unique expertise or solution could your organization bring to facilitate participative design? So now we are looking actually at something specific to your organization. How can we link what your organization does to this topic? So do you have something that you think is going to give you a competitive edge, or something that will help you basically increase the quality of the proposal if you were to be in a potential partnership? How are you going to convince the reviewer? Just going to give you a couple. We have 5 questions on this topic, and I'm just going to see if we just going to do one core topic in view of the time. So we just keep it to these 5, and then we'll wrap up. Right, we're getting some answers in there as well. So stakeholder engagement activities, I see here. Advisory board management. Okay, and I see that survey studies are something that are coming back as well. So very important tool to really work out if certain measures will happen. How can we get that information back to surveys? And there we talk about the funding. Right, some final. See some people still finishing up their answers. And right. Okay, we're going to go to the next one. This is a multiple choice. So let's have a look. And that is going to be, what role could your organization have in a consortium around this core topic? I'm going to give everyone 30 seconds to answer it, to really get this going. So do you see yourself as a coordinator, research partner, technology provider, end user or demonstrator, or maybe something else? And this is really useful information. If we want to follow up on it, we could contact you, or you could you could reach out as well. This is information that we can use to think like how to follow up with you, how can we maybe build on this, this initial idea. So lots of people, they see some potential interest there as a research partner, very good to see. And even, so a coordinator, that is always that's kind of the first step in building new proposals. If you have interest in being the coordinator, that's a really strong driver in getting a good input in that proposal. So we're always looking for good coordinators there. All right, I saw some last answers, but I'm going to stop in 10 seconds and move to the last one. If you want to be followed up, make sure that you have your name there, because we can check then later what your role might be, and this might help us in the follow-up. Okay, final one. What is your level of interest in this topic? So there's 3 questions there. You can just rate your level of interest. This is not going to be shared, so you can just put so it's going to be attached to your name. It's not going to be shown as a result, so you can just rate it. And if you're very interested, we will follow up with you. Of course, this is also for your information that this call topic is out there. And if you want to maybe find other partners here, that's also perfectly fine. We are always willing to help to think with you to the next step. How can we take the initial step in getting a consortium together or a proposal together? Right. I'll leave this open for a little bit. And I'll just show you briefly the other one that I prepared, but I think in view of the time we won't go through that. So this is the other topic. Have a look at it, maybe make a picture if you're interested. It's about building information modeling and digital twins. So might be also relevant to some of the modeling that we talked about, like how can you use those types of modeling in a way that you can optimize and facilitate circular energy renovation. I had a brief question earlier also about like prediction versus like real-time monitoring. It might be very relevant, those type of questions for this topic as well. Have a read afterwards. It might be a very good basis for discussion with others if you are interested. I will now skip the slides on this one and show you just briefly also the email addresses if you are interested in a follow-up. Actually, interested in a follow-up, you can still complete it in the app, so you don't have to really email us. If you have via the app, we can follow up as well. But if you are interested, talk to us afterwards. It's also possible. Finally, I will end with the future topics that are coming up of interest. So you can keep this in the back of your mind if you're looking for projects beyond 2025. These calls have not been announced yet, so this is the wording. The wording will still change, but this is kind of the general topics that are expected to come up for Horizon 2025. Deadlines in 2026. Societal readiness is a key word there. Generative AI, I find it very interesting, to advance digitalization of the energy system, including for service providers, operators, and energy communities, is a call topic coming up. Digital innovations for energy communities. So energy communities, we've seen many calls on that topic. It's going to be a big topic from 2025 as well. And this talks then really about data exchange and also synergies, maybe between like energy use and other sectors like mobility or gas. So lots of interesting topics to be considered. Would love to follow up. So we're going to analyze the input from this Slido survey. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I think I'll leave the closure to Thomas then. Would you like to go back to the other slides, or is it?
No, this is okay. Thank you very much, Jasper.
Yeah.
We would really be interested in creating follow-up projects from SmartSPIN. I think we have a very strong basis here, not only from SmartSPIN, but also multiple other projects our partners bring to with them, and the knowledge coming from there. And this is also something that we're... Luciano, would you like to say something? Or?
Yes, I wanted to say that the two calls that you have presented are both very interesting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wonder whether those would be the best calls to have a follow-up project with respect to SmartSPIN.
Yeah.
They all seem pretty much aligned.
Yeah. Okay. In fact, you are right. I mean, we also expect the live set calls to be published next year. I expect those to be even of higher relevance than the ones presented, but we don't know those yet. Okay, they're not published. We have our antennas open, and we're expecting to hear more about them. But, you know, we'll be in touch, and, you know, if you express interest, we'll be happy to follow up anyway and partner up with you. We will continue our activities through the Smart Energy Cluster anyway. We want our knowledge to be transferred to the other future projects the way we took knowledge from earlier projects before SmartSPIN. And I wanted to also say that there are 3 months left in SmartSPIN until the end of December. There are still ongoing activities and quite some reports still to be published on the website. Go on the website, smartspin.eu, have a look there. And there is also going to be one more event that will take place in Greece, organized by our partner there, Unis Energy Group, and feel free to participate if you are from Greece in that one. It's an exploitation workshop. We'll be happy to see you there. I think that's all. The slides will be shared. And was there one more slide? No, there wasn't. Okay. That's all from my side. Thank you very much, and thank you all for coming today. It was our pleasure.